you ready, Nate?
Yeah.
Consistency is not perfection.
This is the Begin Within podcast, where we believe real, lasting health and fitness requires you to start inside before you work out. I'm your host, Nate Slegger, and I'm here to show you behind the scenes of fitness. You already know exercise is good for you, but what about all the other things in life that affect your fitness? If you're looking for extra motivation to get started or to make sure you keep going, this is the place for you.
Produced by BeginWithin.fit.
We made it all the way to the end of 2021 here on the Begin Within podcast. This is a show that I have wanted to produce for a long time, many years, and this year has been so cool to be able to interact with you, to be able to interact with the guests that we've had on, to be able to provide what I hope is motivation, inspiration for you to either begin or keep on working out, and to never forget about the very important aspects of what's going on inside you as you work out and try to achieve those outside results, weight loss, muscle building, whatever it is that you're after. I hope that as you listen in with me each and every week, that you have the opportunity to reflect on your own progress, not just outside, but more importantly, inside, and the person that you are really becoming in this journey. So I just want to take a moment here at the end of the year to thank you so much for listening. I want to thank you so much for your feedback. It means so much to me. And I also, along those lines, want to ask you for a favor before we dive into our episode. Spotify now has the ability for you to rate this show and, of course, other podcasts that you may listen to. But the reason that they're doing that is it helps podcasts like this one to get in front of more people when the people that do listen to them rate them highly. So if you're listening on Spotify, please take advantage of this new feature on that platform. Go to this show and give us a 5-star rating. I would appreciate it so much, as would anyone else that finds the show as a result of their searches and the ratings that you provided. And of course, if you're listening on Apple, Mom, that's you. Please rate and review the show. Go to the show page. You can click the More button from whatever episode you're in. Go to Show. Scroll down till you find the place where you can give me a 5-star rating as well as write a review. I would love it. It means so much to me, once again, and it would help other people to find this show. A couple things that I want to talk to you about that we are planning on doing for 2022 here on the Begin Within podcast. First of all, we are working to have a strong online community. We're going to do that via a Facebook group. I will link to it in the show notes. We are going to be launching some exciting things there starting in the beginning of January to help you to focus on the inside of fitness on a daily basis. We're going to be talking about habits. We're going to be talking about very specific things that you can do in order to move forward toward the results that you want. We're not going to be talking a ton about how to work out. We're not going to be talking a ton about periodization and weightlifting or cardio, whatever it is that you prefer. We are going to be talking about the little things that you can do to live a healthier life. Kind of the basics of fitness for any person on the planet. The pillars, some of the things we mentioned here on the show before, and what you can specifically do each and every day to give attention to those. I will link to that community, our Insiders Club, in the show notes. Feel free to jump in there now and get ready to see a lot of me coaching you each and every single day. I can't wait to connect with you there. So please jump in our online community. And finally, before we get started on the episode and I tell you about the interview here, we are going to be focusing more interviews in the new year on parents and how it is that they balance everything and still move forward in their own health and fitness. We're talking about mothers and fathers, having them on as guests so that they can share their wisdom. If you've listened for a while, you know that I am not a parent outside of my little fur boy, Jack. So I think it's important for you to be able to connect with other parents, if you are a parent, who are achieving their own fitness goals while at the same time taking good care of their family, prioritizing self-care so that they can take good care of their family. So what I'm going to ask of you is this: if you are a mother or a father who's in this fitness journey and you'd love to share the tips and tricks that have helped you to be able to balance it all, to be able to take care of yourself and your household, reach out to me, nate@beginwithin.fit, and we'll set up an interview so that you can come on the show as a guest. And if you'd rather not be a guest, but you can think of somebody who fits that description, the one I just gave, of a parent who's achieving health and fitness goals and taking good care of themselves, while at the same time taking care of a big family or a small family or any family at all, please send me their name and contact information as well. I'm happy to reach out to them, have them on as a guest. So get ready for 2022. I'm committing to you right now that we are going to have more parents on the show sharing their wisdom. Now, let's move into our episode for today. The theme today is consistency. It's a word we love. It's a word we hate in the fitness industry and as individuals on our own health and fitness journeys, right? Consistency. This is kind of a bit of a ranting episode. I'm going to give you a little bit of warning. I didn't even fully listen to the whole thing back because this is a Facebook Live coaching that I did with one of our favorite guests here on the Begin Within podcast, Becca Kandler. We got together a while back and did this Facebook Live on consistency, and it's a little bit cringy for me as I listen back. If you've heard me on the podcast share these before, you know that once in a while I get a little bit rambly, maybe like I am right now, and sometimes a little bit passionate in not always the most productive ways. So, like I said, this is a little bit cringy for me to share, but I hope that you benefit from it. I hope that you can enjoy it, and I hope that you stay with us right here on the Begin Within podcast, listening from week to week. Here is my Facebook Live coaching with Becca Kandler. Let's dive in. We're talking again about consistency, why it's so important. And I think we're both coming at this, from the perspective of coaches and things that we've shared that have helped our clients over the years, things we're sharing now that are helping clients that we're working with. And then don't forget, like we're our own clients too, Becca and myself, as well as all the other trainers and coaches on the team. Like we're also working on ourselves. So we have our own selves that we've been experimenting on and practicing on. So these are some things that have made a big difference in our own fitness journey too. So, all right, Becca, consistency. I'll let you take the first real stab at it. Go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah. Yep. So I've got a few things. I talk with clients a lot about consistency, and I was thinking about how would I summarize what does consistency look like, right? And this can apply to anything. We're talking health and fitness, nutrition, exercise. But so what does consistency look like? I think it looks like getting right back on track when you do fall off instead of falling off and staying off. Consistency is, and then jumping right back on and being on plan. That's what consistency can look like. I asked a couple of my coworkers too for their input, like what is consistency, right? What does that mean to you? And one of the feedbacks I got was, well, consistency is following the 80-20 rule, right? It's very similar to what I just said. Like you are doing the right things, making the right decisions 80% of the time, so that the other 20% of the time we understand life happens, or we're celebrating, or you're traveling, like whatever it might be. Consistency is also starting with one habit that you can stick to until that habit becomes effortless and pleasurable. If you think about that way, like, it's hard to sometimes imagine that exercise can become pleasurable depending on what it is, but that is my goal for anybody that I train with exercise, is that you are getting some pleasure, whether it's from the actual exercise of it or it is the experience as a whole, right? So that's part of consistency. And consistency is a repeated action over and over until a desired outcome is achieved. Is another way to think about it. As I was thinking about consistency for today, I thought about something that I think is really important as we think about and talk about consistency. And it's something that consistency is not.
There we go. All right.
Are you ready, Nate?
Yeah.
Consistency is not perfection. Right? Kind of like my first summary. Like I talked about, like, falling off, because there are going to be times, whether it's intentional on purpose, falling off, or accidental, but being able to come and jump right back in onto plan, right? There's no peace in there. Is it perfection? Like we talk about, like, okay, what can you do every day? It's not going to happen every single day perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my kind of little overview of what consistency is, and then what it is not. What would you add, Nate?
I don't know that I have a ton more to add, other than just like wanting to dig into some of the things that I heard you talk about.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I think just that idea of perfection versus consistency, like they are not the same thing. And I think consistency, I don't know, I saw one of the comments come through from Karen that was like, oh, like this little surprised face, Karen. I don't know where it went, but it was there. And I think that word consistency, like, it's kind of, it imparts maybe the feeling of some pressure that comes with it. Like, what can you do consistently? You need to be consistent. Like, consistency is the key, and it can feel scary, and it can feel like a lot of pressure. Like, I have to be perfect. Consistency means I don't miss, and realizing that it is not the case. It's kind of like you're doing it more than you're not. And whatever you're doing more than you're not doing is really where our results end up coming from in life, right? So it should be almost more of a freedom. Like, I have this things that's structured in that theoretically could work. Like, I have space for it, so I know most of the time it's going to work, but I also know I don't have to do it perfectly every day in order for me to get the results that I want. So, I can miss a workout. I can have a fun meal. And in fact, that when I'm doing that consistently, albeit not so often that it's the norm, it actually helps me to stay on track, right? Like it's the perfection and the pressure that ends up hurting us when we think that it has to be that way or nothing.
Yeah.
Is that making any sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's exactly it.
And yeah. Go ahead. No, I want to hear what you want to say. I don't have anything important.
Oh,
you got all the wisdom.
I like to I like to compare it to brushing your teeth. Right? Like, that's a health habit that most of us partake in. Let's say 1 to 3 times a day.
3 times a day. Wow. Nice.
I know people who brush their teeth 3 times a day. Most of them have a family member working in dental hygiene.
Okay.
Right? Like, or maybe it's for a period of time, but right? You brush your teeth 1 to 3 times a day. If like, and we know the reasons for that too, right? We're highly motivated. We don't want cavities, gum disease, like the health outcomes. We don't want an expensive dental bill that we have to pay for dental work. It's not enjoyable to be at the dentist for a long period of time, right? So we are motivated by that. But if you miss brushing your teeth, like one of the times that you normally do, like that doesn't mean that, like that's not detrimental to your overall.
Yeah, and you're not like, oh man, why even try brushing my teeth anymore ever because I missed it last night. I was so tired. I went straight to bed. I'm just gonna quit altogether.
Right. Yeah. Like nobody. I don't know. I've never met anybody that did that.
Right. Cool. I also was thinking as you were talking about when we're consistent enough, like we're consistently, we're not perfect, right? We're consistently putting in effort. We're trying. It gives us the opportunity to view it as like I'm just practicing this, and I'm not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. I'm kind of experimenting. And until I get a little bit of a rhythm going, I never get into that place where I'm kind of learning from experimenting. I'm just like, I feel like I'm always picking up the pieces. And once I have it where I've done it most days this week or most days this month, and I'm talking about exercise, getting my veggies in, drinking my water, well, then I start to learn things about the process, and I start to like find little hacks, and it actually becomes easier. Like once I've been consistent, like we've been talking about 80% of the time, doing it most of the time, it actually becomes easier because I start to find ways to do it better, ways to make it more convenient. But if it's always like perfect or nothing, and I'm always falling off the wagon and I'm trying to get back on and be perfect, it just feels like so much effort going into like starting over all the time versus maybe just focus on what I can do consistently and just stay right there until I'm ready to move on. And I think that's kind of similar to what we talked about before, right? Just starting small. Like where does that come into play here in your opinion?
Gosh, I think starting small is the only way to start. Right. And like being like realistic with yourself. Like, what can I do? And that also helps us to be able to start now, which is another thing. But like what is one thing that you can do most days? Right. When we're talking about nutrition, like it's can be sometimes difficult to think about overhauling completely, right? So, okay, we want to consistently eat better. What is one thing that you can do each day? Could you snack on an apple like every day? Like, does that seem reasonable? Do you think you could have, let's say, 7 apples at your disposal? Is there a time in your day that you think you have time to snack on that apple? Okay, let's start there, right? And then once you're consistently more days than not eating that apple, then we look at another time of the day and implement it, adding on there. It doesn't get easier, but you get better at it.
Nice.
Right? You're building a skill like you were just talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Building a skill. I think that's a great way to look at it. I know like that's with the precision nutrition approach like that. We talk about that a lot, building skills, and what are the behaviors that we need to do to build a skill. And it has to be simple. I'm gonna say like you said, what can you do consistently? The other end of that, if I'm not doing it, I think the question is like, how can I make it easier? Or why did I choose something? Nah, maybe not. Why did I choose something so hard? But just simply learning the lesson. If I haven't been doing it consistently, it was too hard. It was something that was too difficult for me. We got to dial this back or maybe choose something different
Yeah,
to
you
focus
didn't
on.
fail. Yeah, you didn't fail at it. The system failed, or it wasn't the right goal for the right time.
Yeah. Yeah. I like this, like just thinking in terms of doing it most of the time. It doesn't have to be perfect. It takes the pressure off, right? It allows you to have some fun once in a while without feeling like, oh, I blew it again. It's not,
Yeah,
it can't be perfect. It's not going to work. Right.
yeah,
So when you all, we focused in this conversation, we focused on like that 80% of the time. But the other thing is like the 20% serves a really important purpose, right? The time maybe when you're not doing it, or you have a rest day, or you have a fun meal, Friday fish fry,
right.
Wisconsin, right? It's
Yeah.
important. Do you feel like the 20% is important? Like if I could do 99 and 1%, should I even try?
No, yeah, I feel like 20% is important. It's also like, psychologically, like how many of us have you tell me not to do it, like then I want to do it more,
Mm,
right? But if you have the
right.
freedom to like make a decision like, oh, like this is a part of the plan is going to fish fry. Like
I
it's
love that plan.
okay,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, and it's okay. There's
totally.
room for that.
Hey, so I feel like we're getting into a great spot here to maybe shift a little bit. And I want to get your opinion on, we use the word results, right? Like do it often enough to get the result that you want. And even this idea of if you're doing it more often than you need to get the result, that it might be too often because you have to have some fun. You have to not be perfect. Um, how often should you check on the results? Like obviously a lot of our clients, people watching, like their goal they want is to lose weight and in particular body fat, right? So what would you say, Becca, is a healthy frequency to check on results? And then like what do you do in that time, like when you're getting on the scale or whatever, what's the mindset like, what's the thought process like as you go and observe what results there are?
Oh man, this is a really hard question, actually, because it depends on where somebody's at, right? If
Okay.
you're newer, I say like if you're newer on your health and fitness journey, we probably want to check in a little bit sooner to get more feedback, right? We also probably have more accountability consistently, so that we are like regularly checking in on like what we call non-scale victories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and things like that. But when we're talking about like scale check-in, that's one thing. I say no more than monthly. Um, we happen to have access to some really nice medical grade scales that measure muscle mass and body fat. Like we don't have all of that always at home. We get to see a little bit more information that shows weight gain might be muscle, which is an
Mm-hmm.
awesome thing, right? Where if you just sometimes it can be frustrating. Um, so no, I say the scale piece no more than once a month. But consistently, like weekly, I would be like checking in on goals where and like non scale victory type goals, right?
Okay.
How is my energy?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is my mood? How are my clothes fitting? How am I sleeping? Things like regularly, at least weekly, kind of doing a self awareness or with a coach
Mm-hmm.
or accountability partner to see where things are at. Because when you reflect on like more than likely you're going to find some successes. You might also find some things that maybe need some improvement. Um, but like you're going to be able to find some of those successes and it's going to help motivate you, right? It's going to build positive momentum. And if you're not looking for them, you might not see them.
Mm-hmm.
Did I
Yeah,
answer the question?
I think you did mostly. No, I think like what I'm hearing, and I totally agree, is like trying to get it in that whenever you're assessing results, right? Or trying to observe results is getting a whole picture, getting the big picture. Like let's talk about all the effects here, because you could be right. My goal is to lose body fat. I might be losing body fat, but I'm miserable. I don't now I'm fighting with my wife all the time, and I can't go out to eat with my friends anymore. Like it has to be a whole person approach to the results. And in that, oftentimes we're able to find victories, things to celebrate, right? That are going well. They're going great. We need to keep this thing happening. This is awesome as a result of the changes that someone's been making. And it takes, again, I like the word pressure. I guess it takes the pressure off of just that like moment of stepping on the scale. Like that's just one little piece, right? It's just one little thing. And if all our focus is there, then we're bound to fail. Like there's going to be a time when the number doesn't go in the right direction. Then what do we do? Right. But the reality is we're people. There's so many elements to life that are all interconnected. We have to get a feel for how those are all working together with the changes that we have made. Um, yeah, I think I wanted to talk about mindset. I think in that moment, like I try to put on that like Sherlock Holmes hat or whatever. It's like we're like scientists right now. We're just like, let's see what happened. We're
Yeah.
not humans that are going to freak out. Like we're just going to observe, and then we're going to make decisions, right? What are we going to do differently moving forward? Are we going to just keep doing what we've been doing? What about for you? Like, is that the mindset that you like to have as you go into like an assessment with the client, or the mindset you like them to have? What do you encourage, Becca, in those
I
times?
do. I do. I like to I think about somebody's again newer on the journey that it's like, all right, like this is an experiment
Mhm.
to a degree, right? Like a lot of this is new to you and your body. So we're gonna keep an open mind. We're gonna be trying a few things. What works, what doesn't work. Like we're gonna be assessing more than just your weight, like we've talked about. What's your work balance like? Is what you did this week something that you can see yourself doing for the next 24 weeks,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Looking like big picture, because that's a part of, are you going to be able to do it consistently, right? If what you did this week worked, but I ask you to look ahead 3 months, 6 months, and you're like, there's no way I can keep going at this, then we need to make a change
Right.
in order for you to overall be successful. So I like to talk big picture with people, right? And that some of that is mindset, some of that is preparing them that we're not talking diet, we're not talking short term, right? Like I'm just getting ready, I want to lose weight fast. We're talking like, how does this become your new normal?
Nice. I love it. Yeah. Again, if you've got questions, you want to pop them in the comments, go for it. We'll answer a couple here. Otherwise, you can put them in the comments if you're watching the replay later as well. Kind of just in wrapping up, Becca, I love to ask this question because we talked about like, what can you do even if you stopped, you've fallen off the wagon, however you want to phrase it, right? What, I guess, in this whole conversation of consistency, what would be the ideal thing for someone who's watching the video here or listening and feeling like, okay, I got a better idea of what consistency is. I love the 80-20. I love that I don't have to be perfect, but what should I do now? Like what's the next step for me? Like from here, now that I better understand consistency, what would you say?
Mm, I mean, I think it might be finding a coach or accountability partner.
Were you afraid to say that? Is that why you left?
A little bit. So like honestly, right? Like don't do it alone. Like no matter whether that looks like you're hiring a coach or, talking to one of us, which we're more than happy to do for a little bit, but like finding a support team of whether that's one other person or it's your entire family in your household or a neighbor, like going at it with having somebody on your team is going to help.
Yeah, that's great.
Probably the biggest.
Nice. So maybe that's like the next step for us then is like, hey, how can I get some accountability? However that is, like whatever that looks like for me. And then with that person discussing like what's feasible for me, what am I ready, willing, and able to do that I can do most of the time and that I can track and see what happens.
That sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Becca. If you are tired of feeling frustrated and disappointed with fitness and you're ready to get on the path to being the healthy person you want to be, just go to beginwithin.fit and click the Join Our Challenge button. We can't wait to support you in your fitness journey and help you to get the results